Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Feminine Leadership Summit. I'm really excited to share space with you all today and introduce you to beautiful Alexandra Matthews. Alexandra serves as a transformational doula, a cosmic cheerleader, and a life coach. She teaches yoga, meditation, and compassionate self-inquiry. She's been searching for truth by studying leadership, spirituality, metaphysics, temple arts, and various other healing modalities for over a decade. And when Alexandra is not teaching, she is writing music and poetry, singing and dancing, and producing inspirational film projects with the intention to spark cellular remembrance and activate humanity's greatest potential. After all of her searching, she has come to the conclusion that life is supposed to be fun, and she wishes to guide people back to their joyful, childlike, magical selves. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Lily. Such an honor to be here with you and to be here with all of the viewers. Thank you all for tuning in, for making yourselves available, for hearing the call, getting that little ping and going, oh, maybe I should check this out. So I just really honor that, because that is a huge step in what I'm about to share later as we dive into this process of heeding those little pings and those little calls. So just wanted to acknowledge that first off the bat.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so for anybody who's just meeting you, hasn't had the privilege of kind of diving into the work that you do, will you share a little bit more about your personal journey of how you got to be on this path? I heard, in your bio, and I know you, that it's like curiosity, but yeah, anything that wishes to be shared.
Absolutely. So I always remember as a little girl, I think it was around the age of 3 or 4, that my parents even told me that I knew that I wanted to be an actor. And I remember, it's almost like a remembering of a remembering, but the process that I remember was being asked by someone or something, or just collectively like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm just like, I don't want to have to choose. I want to be a secret spy. I want to be a queen. I want to be a ninja. I want to be, a badass superhero. I wanted to be all the things. And so my little 3-year-old brilliant mind was like, I know, I'll be an actor. I'm not going to have to choose, I'll be able to play and live all of these different realms. So from the age of 3 or 4, for most of my life, I had such a certainty that that's what I was going to do with my life, was acting and performance. I loved it. I loved how it incorporates human psychology. And I feel there's always just been a part of me that's been curious and fascinated and wanted to understand what the heck is going on, what the heaven is going on. It's like we're in these bodies. Is anybody else tripping out? How did we get here on this planet? Can anybody explain what's in it? People are just going about their thing. And fortunately, my father was a psychologist, so he definitely nurtured that, and we would have all sorts of existential, philosophical conversations. So I had been pursuing acting for a long time. At the age of 12, I learned meditation with my father. He had taken us to learn transcendental meditation. It was like this cool new thing, and they were coming into town, where it was in Southwest Florida. And he's like, hey, do you want to check it out? And so looking back, and I still to this day thank him all the time for introducing that profound gift that has really laid a foundation of my spiritual practice. And even at that time, though, it was not super consistent. There are times that we'd be meditating every day, morning and evening, but it moved in and out. And I still navigated a really intense time just growing up, being a child, and especially my teenage years, and really moving through a lot of depression. I was in Florida, and I felt like I couldn't belong. I couldn't relate to anybody else. And I didn't see what the purpose or the inspiration for anything was. At the age of 16, my parents allowed me to go back to LA, where I'd been born. We moved to Florida when I was 3. We moved back to LA so I could pursue acting. And so I did that. I ended up meeting my first love at the age of 17. So falling in love was a huge awakening and opening, and also super challenging. And just kind of been on this journey of like acting and then love and romance, which kind of overshadowed, it was almost my obsession for wanting to be in a relationship and wanting connection in a lot of ways, really overshadowed everything. And so things kind of moved along, and really, I'd say it's relationship, as it is, I think, for so many of us. That was one of my largest entry points into this work, because I experienced such challenges and such heartaches and such levels of intensity that I was almost like pushed into finally surrendering, to be realizing that, oh, okay, I can choose something different. And at some point there was this awareness. I was in a really dark moment, and I had been reading the 4 Agreements and Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there was just this like aha moment. I remember I was on the bus, I was going to a music video shoot, and it was this concept that I'm choosing my own reality, and I could choose something else, and to take responsibility for the suffering that I was experiencing. Like, yes, pain happens, but the fact that I was choosing to relive painful moments, and, you know, not maybe try to choose something else. That was a really, really huge moment. And I remember being like, oh, like that hurts to think that I'm the one who's been causing this hell for myself. At this point, I think I was about 22 or 23. And there was something that happened very much in the beginning of my relationship that for me felt like a betrayal. That's how I would have experienced it. And I could never get over that. And I was always replaying and replaying. And so like 3-4 years into the relationship, having this awareness that like, wow, I've been the one who's been torturing myself, was, again, painful. And yet I could taste on the other side of that was that freedom of like, if I take responsibility for this, that means that I can choose something else. So that was a really huge moment. And then just continued from there. Plant medicines, doing mushrooms for the first time, was a huge awakening to the possibility of like, oh, there's something more than just this physical body, and being really present to the beauty of nature and life, and feeling that inherent connection to all things. Growing up in Florida, where I was in suburbia, everything was like super planned, cookie cutter houses and artificial trees. Like, they're real, but like the planning of them and like the alignment and structure was just, you know, it wasn't wild. And so my connection to nature was just like, there's a tree and there's a bush. And experiencing this plant medicine for the first time really allowed me to feel my connection to the earth. It wasn't kind of just like, oh, here I am in a body and this thing. It just allowed more of that magic and that mystery to open up and awaken me in that way. And then I've just since then been following what I call the magical breadcrumbs, following the signs and synchronicities. And then, of course, being in Los Angeles and meeting a bunch of other creative artists and people who are on that path, it's just been one wild thing after another, and it hasn't slowed down. I get to choose to slow down, but the synchronicities and the connections and recognizing that magic is so real has only amplified in the last few months. And this has been now like 10, I just turned 29, so at least 10 plus years of being on this path. And you know, ooh, like what else is going to happen next? Finally, I'm in that place.
Yay. Oh, such a beautiful journey, so many gifts, and just hear like what a kind of, you know, like a starseed, you know, rainbow child that you are, to like from that early age have that curiosity, and thank God, you know, for your dad's guidance as well. And I want to highlight something that you shared that I really feel is important to kind of just highlight, say again, is like that self-responsibility, full ownership of the suffering that you're experiencing over whatever it is outside of you or in you. equals freedom. Taking self-responsibility equals freedom. Like I just really felt you like embody that of like, oh, okay, there's something on the other side of this. I get to choose something new. Yeah, it's powerful. And also thank you for just speaking to plant medicine as well. That's actually something that hasn't arisen in the summit yet and is a powerful tool. And I think, you know, we can have misconceptions about it, you know, just call it drugs because it can be abused. And, you know, I came from like a background of using it for partying or escaping. And then I remember the first time my former partner suggested that we do mushroom journey together. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not good. Like I go like into dark places. He's like, when did you do it? I said, like at this party, New Year's Eve, everyone was wasted. And he's like, that's not how you do it. You create a ceremony, you create sacred.
Well, you can.
You can do it like that. You get mixed results.
What kind of results are we wanting? Yeah. What kind of experience, right, are we calling in?
Exactly. And the intention, what kind of experience are we calling in? And that way, and you know, like ancient Mayan cultures and indigenous cultures really speak about like the spirit of these plant medicines that were planted here for us as a vehicle to higher consciousness. And then, you know, when you use it in that way, it's been a powerful healer for me also. So yeah.
I want to share. Thank you for the beautiful acknowledgement. I always feel so seen by you. I just want to let the viewers know that Lily has been such a phenomenal and fundamental cheerleader in my life. And you know, when you're a cheerleader and you're always cheerleading everyone else, to have someone that's reflecting that level of excitement and seeing you and encouragement is just such a gift. And Lily's been a huge supporter of just me really opening and launching my coaching business, which I started last fall. And so I just wanted to thank you and let you know, Lily,
yes.
like a huge piece of all of this.
It's an honor and a pleasure to see you rise and shine and share your gifts.
It's so good. It's just like, this is what's possible. You know, we're speaking about feminine leadership. And I guess one of the messages, and I was meditating on what I wanted to share, is just coming into balance. I feel like feminine leadership is about coming into balance with the masculine energies and the feminine energies within ourselves and within the collective and within all things. And to be clear, right, we all have that feminine and masculine. Perhaps at some point there will be different words so it doesn't trigger the correlation with male and female, because I know that as a collective consciousness, we are growing and expanding and challenging ourselves to see beyond the binary limitations of male and female, and there are other genders that are emerging, which makes perfect sense. If we're talking about moving into the age of Aquarius, I see very much that Aquarian energy as androgynous, and I very much believe that our souls are androgynous, that we are all things, and we come into this body and we just be like, okay, cool, I want to be a woman this time and I want to play this game, but ultimately we have all those archetypal energies within us. But speaking of the balance, is that there's already so much masculine energy in the field. It's distorted, right? So when we talk about feminine leadership, it's not to say that we're not going to also have that masculine energy, but we don't need to work on that. I mean, we can work on the marriage and the healing and the realigning, but it's like there's already a lot of that in the pot. So now introducing some more of the feminine wisdom, and then that way they can come into balance. And one of the ways that really shows up is like you're speaking of the win-win. So it's like we all win together. There doesn't need to be this competitive edge, like perhaps that is served to a point, and perhaps there's even some minute ways that we can compete in a playful way that helps rise one another up, but recognizing that unity of all of us, and that as you rise, I rise, and as each person rises, we just kind of keep supporting, because it's this larger nodal network.
Yeah.
So that's something that's been really exciting, is how can I help anchor in these feminine keys and codes. And one of my favorite ones that I keep coming back to is the trusting and the allowing and balancing that need to try and make things happen. And how can we balance with, planting the seed and taking the inspired action, but also learning to listen and honoring the cycles of life and listening to the natural rhythms of the earth and the cosmos, remembering that we are a part of this larger orchestration that is unfolding. And to think that even we could really influence things in such a substantial way, I just think is hilarious and adorable and precious. But to be able to come back and remember that we are one with all of these forces and these energies that are at play, the forces that hold planets in place and keeps the earth rotating. We can listen and learn to align with that. We don't really even have to exert that much effort. It's just kind of like riding and surfing those cosmic waves. So this is one of my major tenets in my coaching and my teaching, is to come back into alignment with self by making time for contemplative practice, stillness, and mindfulness, so that we can even know what center is. And then from there, begin to see, like what's going on, in the weather patterns or the cosmic patterns of nature. And how can I move with that and align myself? What's being asked for right now?
So
and then life
powerful.
just becomes so much easier.
Oh, so much easier, so much more flow and fun.
Yeah,
we're here to have fun
to be so hard
too.
and suffering all the time.
Yes.
This is one of the largest stories and programs that I'm inspired just to help, remind people, like, it really doesn't have to be so hard. Maybe in the moment, just moving through that belief system can be, maybe challenging. So you're like, oh, it's not, I'm saying the affirmation, how come it's not easy already? Be gentle and have a little patience, but continue to show up and unravel that belief system. Things do start flowing in the most beautiful, incredible ways beyond what we could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many deep layers in the collective of like fear and like things are not okay and scarcity that we have to break through. So those affirmations have to go deep into that kind of collective subconscious. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I just really hear you describing feminine power and feminine leadership, and I wholly agree that it is this balance of the masculine and the feminine, really understanding each other's within, those two essences and how they support and dance with each other, what their gifts are to like hold this structure and container and focus and intention of the masculine, and then the feminine gets to come back to, as you said, trust and self-care and surrendering and letting go and the mystery of the whole, and really working from that place. So much more empowering and fun and good for our bodies. Yeah. Wow. So you've mentioned a few different kind of practices and things. I mean, there's, and tools like plant medicine and even like performing arts. And I'm curious, what is a practice that is something that somebody could do, right now, today, after this call, that could allow them to cultivate a little bit more of that feminine connection, a little bit more of that that trust or that surrender or play? What's been really powerful for you?
Yeah, I'll share one that's been really prominent and prevalent for me lately. Dance. Dance. And it's funny, I realized that there's almost kind of like, there's been a resistance to share more about it. I have some really dear sisters that are dancers, and that's their full on thing. And it's like, even as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that that's been a limitation. I've begun breaking down the whole story of like, I'm a singer, I'm not a singer, or I'm not a musician. And in the last few years, I've had this massive vocal awakening. I had been studying with Priya Deepika and Maria Stark, and really approaching voice from a holistic perspective of this instrument that can heal the body. Like our voice, your voice, ladies, is the best sound healing tool for your own body. It's made for you. So that's been a huge one. And I had always dated musicians and composers. And at some point I realized, oh, that's why, because I was drawn to this thing. And yet I hadn't started since I was 4 years old. So my mind was like, I missed out. I missed the boat. You know, I'm not that thing. And so I've broken that down. And I'm even realizing right now, I had taken dance classes, you know, on and off growing up, but that wasn't my discipline. It was acting. And I started studying with Arabia Sinceri about 5 or 6 years ago. That was a huge, powerful piece of remembrance for me, without any medicine use. A lot of remembrances have come through medicine use. And this was one that was really amazing because it was just me and the dance and the practice. And that's a whole other thing. I know you know all about it because you share so much on this lineage of the rose lineage and the serpent path and, you know, the priestess pathways. That was a huge piece. And from dancing with her, belly dance and temple dance, I got to experience that sense of fulfillment and wholeness without medicine, or any drugs, whatever we want to call any of the various things I had been using. And without another person, you know, the love and affection and validation of a man or other people, but specifically it always often show up, you know, in the form of a relationship. And that was that first taste that I really got of like, ooh, doing something that I just like feel like so in my power and like, oh, I remember who I am. So I do these like weekend workshops and immersions. Then there wasn't anything consistent in LA. Not that that should ever be an excuse, but it wasn't there. And so then I'd do it when she would come and do the workshops. And then I had the fortune to be able to go to Hawaii and do 2 immersions and retreats there that have been incredible. But kind of circling back around, recognizing like actually this dance and this art form has been such a huge, deep part of my path and my remembrance. And yet I've been kind of shy to be even more of an advocate and an ambassador. Like when I see people in person, I share, but recognizing that a part of me didn't feel like, oh, I can't say that I'm a dancer because I'm not at this level of achievement or accomplishment. And so even right now in this session, I'm just gonna like clear that belief system right now and like allow this to be the beginning of really being a powerful stand for this message. And I think a big part of the resistance is because it's easier for me to sit in stillness. I know that's challenging for people. It's always just been easier for me to sit and do nothing. I've been more on the end of like needing to get motivated and inspired. And I like to say inspired because I've heard that motivated is getting you to do something that you don't want to do. And inspired is like, just like you're pulled by that thing. So I've always needed a little bit more of that. And then once I'm doing the thing, I'm into it, but I'm, you know, call it a Taurus or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm chilling, I'm good. But that's also been one of my greatest challenges is being so mental and so in the thought process and the philosophy and all of that I forget about moving my body. And oftentimes I just go to a yoga class. I think the world is ending. I'm like, I just needed to move the energy. I was getting stuck in my body, or dance. And I feel a lot of my moods in the past and my instability has been from a lack of that connection to my body, and that honoring, once again, the cosmic forces and cycles. They are always flowing. At the end of the day, I can have all these ideas and concepts and philosophies, but I know that I have a body. So like use it however I can figure out how to use it. And this is a tool that I'm really prioritizing as something that is so necessary for my well-being and my health and feeling balanced. So when you get off of this video, just put on a playlist, put on a radio station from Spotify, play your favorite music, and just dance for you. Forget about for anybody else what it looks like, and just dance for you. And if you're feeling frustrated, or if you're feeling like I suck at this and I'm not, whatever those thoughts are, give them an opportunity to express themselves and say, you have the stage. What do you want to say? Like, what do you want to do? And just allow them to move you and move through your body. And it can be weird, it can be sexy, sensual. Allow all of the things to come forth. And I found that to be such a profound practice, and a really great way to get in touch with the sensuality of the feminine body and the feminine energy. So yeah, you don't need to wait for a partner to have your sexy dance. Do that for you. Go in the mirror, or if it's not in the mirror, and just really drop into yourself and see what happens, and let us know.
Yes. So powerful. So good. Yeah, and I really love how you just, named, as you were noticing them, the part of you that wasn't claiming your birthright to be a dancer. And anybody else that's listening that had any parts, come up of I'm not this, I'm not that. It could be all of it. Like clearing that away and claiming it, reclaiming all of these parts of ourselves. And yeah, it's such a powerful portal to go into the body and into the movement, and really have remembrance of who you are in that way.
I'm feeling inspired, Lily, just to take a moment and do like a 1-2 minute meditation to support ourselves and any women that are having those thoughts come up. I don't even know what's going to happen right now, but I'm gonna just drop this in. So
let's do it.
Some part of me knows, of course.
Bonus.
So I invite everyone to close your eyes and take a nice deep inhale into your belly, into your womb space. Go ahead and place one hand. And sitting nice and tall, shoulders relaxed. Inhaling through the nose. Exhale, releasing with a sigh or sound, grounding into the present moment. And placing that other hand on your heart. And again, inhaling deeply into this womb space. Inhaling into the heart. Exhale, releasing the womb and the heart. And one more, inhaling deeply in through the nose. Exhale completely. And at this time, continuing to breathe, just calling forth to the surface any of those limiting thoughts, belief systems, whatever came up for you in the last few minutes. If it was the dancing thing, not being a dancer, use that. If there was something else that came up, if there were a few different things, you might not even know what it is, but just set that intention for any of those limiting constructs of your identity to surface into your heart space. Give them full permission to be known. Feeling these energies, perhaps there's color or shape. honoring them for the role that they've played and how they've served you. For you are who you are because of them. And then now, whatever you are ready to release, we can transmute these energies, these limitations into the fire of our heart. And so, taking a deep breath, and on the exhale, I'll do that again. Inhaling, calling them forward, allowing them to be known. Exhaling, breath of fire. And one more. Just breathing here for another couple moments. Noticing how you feel now. Allowing that energy to circulate throughout your entire system. Refilling any of those places that you've been stagnant or blocked. Just remembering that we are all things, that we are that same source energy that created the multiverse, that created us, and all of those energies, all of those archetypes exist inside of us, ready and available for us to claim them and play with them and activate them however we feel inspired from our heart's truth. And just gently opening our eyes. And just noticing how easy it can be to transmute energy. Really, through the power of our intention is all that it takes.
Thank you, sister. Feels so good to receive and to release. My last question is for any of the women beings who are watching. Why now? Why is it so important for them to step into their feminine leadership now?
I will say, why not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Why not? You don't have to, let's take away again the forcing and that you have to, and let's clear all the stories about we have to save the world and all the pressure. Oh my gosh, I have to be something now, and and then all of the self-judgment and the shame because I know that I'm supposed to be doing this thing, but I really can't get it together. And really invite that playfulness of why not? And if you're watching this, it's because you do feel the call and because you are ready, and so needing that little extra encouragement, you're ready.
Yeah.
And why now? Because you're thinking about it. Really, that's why. It's you're thinking about it has come to mind. That's what I say. That's your soul letting you know. Okay, now this is time for this thing. We're gonna go here now and start to seek out other peers and other beings that are embodying the qualities that you wish to embody, just to help reflect that to you, so you can see what that looks like and begin to imprint that. Because perhaps you weren't surrounded by women who, like most of us, who were embodying those qualities and those traits that you admire. A lot of us, I think, have lacked the role models of what it is to be an embodied woman in her power and in right relationship to her power, where it's not power over, but power from within, and where she is joyful and sensual and graceful and kind, yet fierce. And we haven't seen that. Like, what is that? Like, maybe we've heard mythologies of these beings, and a few of us perhaps had the fortune to be raised with those women. That's what they chose in this lifetime. But a lot of us have been coming in and seeding these families where there's been so much trauma. And so we've come into these lineages to help them heal. And through healing ourselves, we get to heal our mothers and our grandmothers and pass the healing up and down the lineages and then out collectively. And so why now is because it's a really exciting time where there's so much support. And also, it's just, again, it's actually just going with the flow. Like, that's like the way that things are moving is so you can fight and resist. Or I invite you to take a breath and surrender into the majesty of your being that is longing to emerge. And there's nothing to do or get or fix or change, just simply allowing who you are to reveal in its own perfect time and unfolding and blossoming. I see you, sisters, and I know who you are on the deepest of soul levels. And through this transmission, it is my deepest desire that I can activate and awaken that part of you that also knows, and allow that to come alive even more.
Yeah. Ah, so rich, so beautiful, so powerful. Thank you so much. You've given so many gifts through this, but I know that you are also giving a meditation for everybody, and we'll have the link here.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to go on my website. She's going to post the link as well. And at the bottom of my website, I will have a place where you can fill in your email address. And then you will be emailed the first email with this guided meditation. And once again, I feel where to start is to start with some kind of a practice that can allow you to familiarize with your own energy.
Thank you, sister. So grateful for you. Thank you for answering the call. Yeah. See what we would have all been missing if you hadn't.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just see, it's just that allowing allowing is easy. It was the other parts of me that are like, oh, I don't know, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough yet. But like that's exhausting. At some point I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see how good things can get.
Yes. So yeah, to all of you that are watching, listening, receiving this divine transmission, just see the mirrors that are in front of you. We all hold the same fears, the same stories, maybe different flavors of the same thing. And you are so ready. You are so enough. Thank you. Share with us what comes up. We want to hear from you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.